2022 meeting of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Board of Directors. My name is Kate Howard. I'm secretary to the corporation. I'm going to take a roll call. Ms. Westerman. Mr. Corcoran.
Here.
Mr. Markey.
Present.
And Mr. Kazansky.
Here.
We have a quorum of the board. Unfortunately, our chair could not join us today, so the first item on the agenda is appointment of a chair pro tem. My understanding that Mr. Corcoran is willing to serve in that role today. And I have a motion to appoint Mr. Corcoran as chair pro tem for the board meeting.
I'll make a motion.
The second from you. Any discussion? Votes? In favor? Okay.
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran, it's now your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, everyone. This fine August end of summer morning. First item on the agenda today is the approval of the draft minutes from the June 23rd, 22nd, 2022 board meeting. I hope everyone had a chance to review those. And if you had any changes, you got back to Kate to make sure they were reflected. What I'd like to do is call for a motion for the approval of the draft minutes. Is there a motion for their approval?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? The item passes and the minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda today is the president's report. As the chair is not there, so there is no report to give. So I'll just move right to the president's report. And with that, Madam President, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Francis. First, I just wanted to introduce two new folks that have joined, and they're remote, so I wanted you to be able to see their faces. Chris Zubb, who's just been promoted to senior accounting manager, and he was very involved in preparation of the audit financials, and he will be participating in future audit committee meetings. I wanted you to meet him. Raise your hand there, Chris. Okay,
Thanks, Brian.
so that's Chris. And then Brian McGuire, who is Senior Management of Procurement and Program Compliance. And he's going to be speaking about ID number 7. So,
Right.
Brian, I don't have my glasses on. Did you raise your hand? Okay. Because I can't read both things and see distance at the same time. So just a couple things. We have posted our 2022 IUP amendments for clean water, which does the new bipartisan infrastructure law requirements and has the list of projects that will be receiving bill funds to allocate the 2022. We met some deadlines with EPA to ensure that we got the application in for those dollars so that New York State will be eligible for reallocation of funds if there's other states that don't get their capitalization awarded in time. Drinking water doesn't have that same deadline. They didn't have to get theirs in. What they're doing is they're handling the 2022 and 2023 allotments in their 2023 IUP, and their IUP, draft IUP was also posted. We're taking comments until September 22nd. Our 2022 amendment will be effective 9/30, September 30 in this fiscal year, and then the 2023 IUPs be effective October 1st for the next fiscal year. Lead service lines and emerging contaminants for drinking water, they actually have until today as the deadline to list their projects. So just wanted to give folks a little bit longer to show they're interested in those buckets of money. Anything else, Dave, on the water side?
No, I think you explained it very well.
Okay. And we'll have a webinar on the 12th. So very soon.
You mentioned some changes with hardship category. Tell me about that.
So we revised our hardship policy for clean water before we went out with WIA grants last year to up the amount of grants you can get, because looking forward to bipartisan infrastructure law and wanting to get more money out to hardship communities. And so this year we upped the amount to match that of the loan you can get up to 25 million instead of the hardship loan at 0%. Hardship financing up to 25 million to match the 25 million grant you can get. It used to be 20 million max. So we did that, and then we looked at the affordability criteria and added EJ and some other things in to hopefully capture the needs. So we'll look at that, and we're meeting actually with the environmental justice folks up at Department of Environmental Conservation to see if they have any ideas. We've talked to them before when we added EJ to the hardship policy.
Great. I'm wondering, I think it's household, median household
Yes.
income. Is that based on census data?
Yes.
And is it updated, sort of the big census? Is
Yeah,
that
every
new?
couple years.
Oh, it's the
So
American
right now,
survey.
yes, right now we should.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's not.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so they're posted. You guys want to see them? We have a link to the drinking water IUPs on the Reaches site. The WIA IMG application they're due by September 9th. 225 million is available this round. Also, we announce a certain amount, and then when we award it, it's generally significantly higher because emerging contaminants projects get their full 60% grant, even if it's over the maximum grant. So that adds extra money, and then so instead of 225, we might award 325, depending on how many emerging contaminant projects and how expensive they are. But we don't know what that is. But right now we did an availability for 225 million. Getting a lot of questions on that, as I mentioned in the finance committee. So that's good. And we've done 4 e-blasts and had 2 webinars. So the word is out there, and we've spoken to a number of conferences and so we are always oversubscribed, so people know about it. So that's good. And I think, the field trip. A couple people have asked, are we still going on the field trip? We are. We'll have our board meeting, and then we will go to Rome and visit the wastewater treatment plant. They've done some work on their digesters, and they're using that gas to generate electricity. And 40% of their electrical needs is getting 40%. And because it's energy efficiency, GIGP paid for some of that project. We're also going to visit 2 GIGP sites while we're in Rome. One is a Green Streets, and the other is 50 acre. 5 acre industrial site that we've turned into a park along the Erie Canal using green practices. So I think it's great. We can get some GIGP projects in, plus a gray project at a treatment plant that also use green practices. So that's that. And then
What is the date of that again? Madam President?
October
13th.
Let me just say October 12th. Yes. Date of our next meeting. And then just quick, I'm sure you've all seen heard about the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi,
Yeah.
which is so awful.
Sure.
No drinking water.
Right.
Over 200,000 people. And then it's just another reminder of how important it is what we do, and resiliency and building back, because the flooding just made it worse, how important it is that folks are building the plants that they build back.
Right.
To that's it.
Well, Madam President, thank you very much for your report, all those good items. Some of the great work that the EFC is doing is actually distilling itself into long-term financings by folks who haven't done them prior, with making use of the WIA grants and transitioning them into longer-term relationships. And the WEA grants have really gone a long way to opening the door to helping more communities. And so, thanks everyone for working hard to make sure the word gets out on the street and across the state on how EFC can help in the different ways in which it can. So thank you for that, Madam Chair and EFC staff. The next item on our agenda is committee reports. The Finance Committee met prior to the board meeting. I chaired that meeting, and we had two items on our agenda for today. One was the approval of the minutes from the June 23rd, 2022 meeting, which we approved. And the second item was the State Revolving Funds debt authorization request. Clean Water, Drinking Water State Revolving Funds Bonds Series 2022B. And after presentation by Brian McClintock and discussion and review by the members of the board, it is our recommendation from the Finance Committee that the State Revolving Funds debt authorization request, Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds Bonds Series 2022B be approved by the full board upon presentation of ID number 1 on our agenda today. And so that was the result of our meeting today. Again, 2 items. And Madam President, that is the end of my report. And so with that, if there are no questions so far or any other unfinished business, we will move into the resolutions, if that's all right.
That's perfect.
Madam Secretary?
ID number 1, a resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizing the issuance of up to $118,780,000 New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation State Clean Water and Drinking Water Revolving Funds Revenue Bonds Pooled Financing Program, or alternatively authorizing long-term direct financing.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yep.
A second?
I'll second.
All right, Gita, thank you. With that, we'll have discussion, which will be led by Brian McClintock. And again, this was the item recommended for approval by the Finance Committee this morning at our meeting. Brian, I turn it over to you, my friend.
Thank you. This resolution is for Series 2022B. It is a master 2010 MFI indenture bonds. It is for $819,780,000 for 28 recipients. On the new money side, it's for 28 recipients and 37 projects. In addition to that, there are 2 series of bonds that we will potentially refund. There's Series 2012B and Series 2012E. They are for 93 projects related to those. And that refunding will be market dependent. And, with the market volatility right now, it's looking like those won't be refunded, but we wanted the authorization in case the market came around on that. Again, these are in the 2010 MFI, and they are secured by the cash flows from all the recipient repayments, obligations under the 2010 MFI. We are required to have a 1.15 times coverage, and our projected coverage as of September 30th of this year will be 1.36 times. That is the coverage of the revenue coming in from the recipient bonds and what we owe to the investors. Also, the security is also has a pledge from the New York Water indenture. Anything that is released from the New York Water indenture can be used to pay any defaults related to the MFI. As I said, there's 28 different recipients here. One of the new recipients that we haven't seen in the pool in a while, because we've always had them in their own indenture, is New York Water. Because of timing reasons and to benefit the MFI, we are putting them in this pool. We have along with New York Water, we have 2 other recipients, Nassau County and Suffolk, that are over $100 million each in the pool. Just just to talk a little bit about the credit for the MFI. It is a diverse credit. We have a bunch of not rated credits. There are smaller borrowers. That's a number wise, they are very high. However, dollar wise, they're a lot lower. They're only 9% of it, where 56% of the MFI is related to AA or better credits. From there, I will open it up to questions.
Expected ratings, Brian, are AAA.
Expected ratings are AAA. We are looking to price this November 1st and close it on December 6th. We're looking to get a ratings from the rating services October 25th.
Mr. Corcoran, we can't hear you.
Hey, Brian, if you could just take a second for the benefit of the board, maybe you could just speak about how the accumulation of ratings by some of the participants affect us with the credit ratings agencies?
Sure. One of the reasons we're putting New York Water in the pool is to boost the ratings. Our top 4 borrowers right now are, projected top 4 borrowers after this deal will be Westchester #1, Oneida, Onondaga, and then New York City. Of those 4, the 3, Westchester, Onondaga, and New York City, are in the AA category, and Oneida is in a single A category. We do have some of our larger borrowers that are going to be in a little bit lower categories. That's why we're looking to get the better rated credits like New York Water. That's why we put them into this pool.
Great, thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Are there any other questions or discussion for Brian? Okay. There being none, I would move for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That item number 1 passes. Thank you, everyone. Madam Secretary, ID number 2.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation amending the prior authorizations for financial assistance to be provided by the corporation to certain recipients in connection with the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Motion and a second. With that, any discussion? And we will be led today by Brian McKelvey in our discussion about ID number 2. So Brian, I hand it over to you.
Great, thank you very much.
You're
There are
very
3
welcome.
projects in this ID. The first is for the town of Delaware, which in Sullivan County, which the project description is the development of 2 new water sources and the construction of a new water treatment building, the removal of secondary spring sources from service, and decommissioning and the demolition of well number 1, replacement of the elevated storage tower, and replacement of water mains, hydrants, valves, and the installation of water meters. We're looking to modify the project scope on this, and it's primarily the modification is to resolve some GWUDI, which is groundwater under the direct influence of surface water issues. By doing that, there's going to be 2 new water sources with capacity to produce the maximum day demand, with the largest well out of service will be developed, and the new water treatment building for the 2 new wells will be constructed. They also noticed that the elevated storage tank was in poor quality, so the tank will be replaced as well. The next project is for the town of Esperance in Schoharie County. This is a project for the pre-treatment processes to reduce raw water or total organic carbon loading. We're looking to increase the funding on this of $968,700 in STIF, and to extend the maturity from October 19th, 2022 to to October 19th, 2023. The additional funds will be needed to complete contract number 5, and the funds will also the increases the result of increases in material costs and delays in material deliveries. And the delays can also be attributed to rotting roof rafters that need to be replaced. And lastly, we have the Village of Philadelphia in Jefferson County. This is for the construction of an impervious geomembrane cap over the existing spring box and infiltration gallery and installation of an outlet control structure inside the spring box. Also, an unconnected groundwater production well will be serviced and outfitted with a new pump. For this ID, we're seeking a funding increase of $266,600 in interest-free financing. It'll also come up again in ID number 3, where we're seeking authorization to add $683,400 in WIA funds. Phase 2 of the project was delayed because of COVID lockdowns during the first bid, and then the need to rebid came in with higher prices. There also has been a very long delivery times for the construction materials, and also phase 2 work can't be completed until phase 1 is completed. Any questions?
So I just want to say I mentioned before that we're trying to keep costs, like better estimated costs, so we keep these amendments down, but it's just kind of, it's getting harder and harder. So we do continue to talk about what we can do to make sure we get better estimated costs.
Or you discover, something.
Well, yeah, that we can't help if we start doing something different, but like materials and really pushing the contractors, the financing, the engineering firms to address this. But so we continue to try, and it continues.
It'll be interesting to see how this trend is over time, right? Because it used to be occasional.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's increased quite a bit over the past number of years. And it'll be interesting to see if that curve goes back down over time as supply chain changes and everything else. But, there's only so much you can push on the contractors because it's all in the chain.
Right. And we are working with making sure we're working with updated budgets, but we're also pushing for them to consider higher contingencies than we typically see, because there are additional expenses of coming back to us for these cost increases. So if we can get that buffer in there with the first financing, that's a benefit to everyone.
I was going to add, you read my mind on that, because typically you have your 20% contingency maybe. Is there like a cap on contingency that you consider when you're looking at the projects? You're like, 40% is way too much, but anyway, I agree with you. That contingency percent would be helpful, yeah.
Now, believe it or not, for the longest time, we were looking for contingencies of only around 10% or so.
Yeah, right.
But now we're encouraging them to go up to a 30%.
Exactly, yep. Thank you for bringing that up. You read my mind on that.
No problem.
Any other questions or discussion on ID number 2? All right, there being none, I would move for a vote of its approval. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? There being none, it passes. Madam Secretary, ID number 3, please.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and authorizing financial assistance payments to certain municipalities to fund eligible drinking water projects from funds appropriated for water infrastructure improvement projects.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion for approval of ID number 3.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, great. With the motion and a second, I'd like to have a discussion, and Dave Phillips will lead us through the presentation and on this item. So Dave, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the first project is the Village of Philadelphia in Jefferson County, which Brian just mentioned as part of the amendment. So again, this project will have an increase in the short-term interest-free financing, as well as the addition of a 2021 WIA grant in the amount of $683,400. The project includes source upgrades to their existing springs and an existing well, to protect water quality and make those sources usable. It includes a new treatment plant to treat both of those sources, a new transmission main to connect that treatment plant into the existing distribution system. And it also includes rehabilitation of an existing storage tank. That work includes repainting and addition of a new mixer. So the project will address a surface water treatment rule violation related to the spring source, which had been determined to be groundwater under the direct influence or Woody. It'll also address source capacity issues by the addition of the new well. The second project is for the village of South Dayton in Cattaraugus County. This is a project that is seeking DWSRF funds, a little over 1.4 million in short-term interest refinancing, as well as a $1,823,100 DWSRF grant. So this is a hardship project, disadvantaged community. It includes a new well and rehabilitation of 2 existing wells. It includes upgrades to the existing treatment system. That work includes improvements to meters, pumps, the electrical system, valves, and a new generator for backup power. It includes replacement of approximately 4,200 linear feet of severely aged distribution mains and replacement of approximately 250 service meters. So this project overall will address a notice of violation from the county health department for the lack of source redundancy. It'll upgrade a 90-plus-year-old treatment system and distribution system, and will overall improve automation, efficiency, and resiliency of the system overall. Any questions on those?
Oh, Francis, I think you're muted again.
I was saying, are there any questions from the members with regard to Dave's presentation on ID number 3? Well, I just have one comment, and that is seeing the items up on the screen. I know it's a lot of extra work for staff and tech and all that, but for the millions of viewers at home and for myself, it is really great to actually be able to see what we're talking about and presented in this way. And we've been doing it for a little while here, but it really, I know it's a lot of extra work, but it actually, I think, has a lot of benefit. So thanks for adding that in, all of you, when you give the presentations on the items. So thank you for that. With my editorial comment, I will now take a motion to approve ID number 3. All in favor?
I'll make a motion. Yeah, all in favor. Yeah. Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being none, ID number 3 passes. Madam Secretary?
I also second the fact that I do enjoy seeing it geographically as well.
Right? Thank you for that. Madam Secretary, if you could lead us into ID number 4.
Resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation modifying the prior authorization for financial assistance provided by the corporation to a certain recipient in connection with the Disaster Relief Appropriations Act of 2013 and the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Great, thanks. All right, is there a second? I'll second. All right, there's a motion and a second. And with that, we'll have discussion. And Brian, once again, if you could lead us through.
Yeah, no problem. This is a different one, Suffolk County project. If you notice, this project shows up 3 different times in our agenda. And it's going to look like we waited till the last minute to do this, which we did on purpose. Basically what happened was we had the storm mitigation loan program, and we had a lot of projects, and they were finishing up, and we were fine tuning their final numbers. And we waited till the last moment to find out how much money we had left. What happened was some of the projects came in under budget, so we had excess milk funds. All along, we knew that could happen, so we identified what we called a sponge project, which was the Suffolk County project, the Bergen Point outfall replacement one. So what we did is we wound up with just over $38 million in funds. So we'd like to what we're asking for authorization for on this ID number is reallocating $28,488,040 in SMILP proceeds, that's SMILP loan, 0%, and then adding also additional grant of $10,186,203. Again, that's SMILP grant. Adding that to, that's replacing other base funds that we had on the Suffolk County project. To tie this in with the other ones that are here is, so what we're asking for in number 4 is authorization to approve the short term. We're going to close that short term and then very quickly disperse the funds. And then we're going to look to convert them into the pool. So the base funds that are in this total financing will be in the leveraged pool financing. And then the SMILP related funds, the loan dollars, will be in a direct, which is the next ID number is Bill's going to cover that. So this specific one is just the short-term finance. Any questions?
Any discussion by the members?
Got it.
If you could, Brian, just how does that work with the whole barrier, the Jones Beach barrier and all that stuff? Is it under the water, or what's the deal?
Yes, the outfall will be under Great South Bay between the treatment plant and Jones Beach Island.
Uh-huh.
That's what's being replaced with this project. From there, it goes into another pipe, another 17,000 feet out into the Atlantic Ocean.
It was currently being discharged into the bay. Is that correct?
No, Bay Park was discharging into the bay where they were. This has been going underneath the Great South Bay, but the pipe was deteriorated and there was concern that it was going to fail and rupture.
Wow. And then they determine that through these like underwater inspections, or they do ultrasonic, kind of.
I don't know the details as to what type of testing was done, but yes, it's obviously this outfall is critical to this wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
So that they keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that diversion there for me. And any further discussion on ID number 4? There being none, all in favor of its approval? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, ID number 4 passes. Madam Secretary, ID number 5.
Resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation amending the prior authorizations for financial assistance to be provided by the corporation to certain recipients in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Is there a motion to approve ID number 5?
Make the motion.
All right. And second?
We got Christine for a second.
Great. Thank you, Christine. So a motion and a second discussion. And once again, Brian, if you could lead us through on this discussion.
Absolutely. For this ID number, there's 2 projects. The first is the Village of Clyde in Wayne County. The project is for the planning, design, and construction of the village's wastewater treatment plant. In this financing, we're looking to do a funding increase of $3,443,269 in interest-free proceeds and adding $625,000 in market rate proceeds. The market rate proceeds will pre-finance a WQIP grant. The bids, again, was just like others, were severely impacted by COVID-related delays and inflation. And the new scope includes additional equipment replacement within the wastewater treatment plant to improve operator efficiency and maintenance, including the construction of a new sludge vault, replacement of the existing effluent pump, and new disinfection drain slides, gates, and new clarifier drives. The second is for the town of Ontario. This is in Wayne County. It's for the planning, design, and construction of the wastewater treatment plant. And again, we're looking for a funding increase of $1,271,750 in interest-free proceeds, and the same amount in market rate proceeds, and the modification of the project scope. The new scope includes the installation of an additional low-flow pump at the Bear Creek Pump Station, improvements to the return waste activated sludge pumping system and the installation of a cascade aeration system to replace the existing mechanical aeration system. Also, the installation of a force main and to allow for them to bypass the around the station and for redundancy purposes. The change in scope and the impacts, again, related to the pandemic, and this also related in the increased cost. Any questions?
That's great, Brian. Just a quick question. Did the engineering grant get these folks to the table? Was that the sort of this first kind of foray with them on this?
They received a green infrastructure grant. I didn't see the engineering.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Clyde
In
did.
the Village of Clyde. Okay. I
Clyde
apologize.
Yeah, sorry.
had
Ontario had one as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, just to highlight the many ways in which we help to facilitate bringing municipalities to the table with their projects. So is there any further discussion or questions for Brian?
No.
There being none, all in favor of approval of ID number 5? Aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Madam Secretary, ID number 6, please.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and authorizing financial assistance payments to certain municipalities to fund eligible clean water projects from funds appropriated for water infrastructure improvement projects.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve ID number 6?
I'll make a motion to approve ID number 6.
And a second? And thank you. With that, a motion and a second. Bill, if you could lead us through the discussion on ID number 6 for the board.
All right, good afternoon. Today we have 6 clean water financings before the board, the new financings. The first is the City of Kingston in Ulster County. This is a new short-term financing to fund upgrades at the city's wastewater treatment plant. The financing consists of approximately $6.1 million in hardship financing, interest-free financing, and a $1.975 million WIA grant. These upgrades are needed to comply with new, more stringent nitrogen limits at the treatment plant's species permit. Majority of the work is related to the aeration basins, modifications to the tanks, along with some new piping and new blowers. Construction is expected to begin in September and will be complete next spring. Next, we have the Village of Lowville in Lewis County. This is a long-term financing for $10,809,000. Again, it's a hardship financing, long-term hardship financing. The project was for upgrades to the sanitary collection system in the village. They rehabilitated 15,400 linear feet of sanitary sewer and also installed 14,350 linear feet of new storm sewers on various streets within the village. There were also 2 pump stations that were installed to eliminate existing siphon systems that they had in their collection system. And construction on this project was completed in October of 2021. All right, next we have 2 financings related to Nassau County's Bay Park Conveyance Project. First is a new short-term financing for $95 million. Half is interest-free and half is market rate. It's a cash flow financing as part of the overall $513 million project to divert flow from the Bay Park wastewater treatment plant to Cedar Creek. So that's the short-term financing there. And then also at the same time, we are proposing a long-term financing for the Storm Mitigation Loan Program, or SMILP financing. Nassau County received $26,812,500 in SMLP loan, and just over $8.9 million in SMLP grant. So it received all of that loan financing, and we're now ready to convert that to long-term. Work began on this project in March of 2021 and is expected to be complete in August of 2024. All right, next we have another long-term interest refinancing. This one for Suffolk County, the Suffolk County project that Brian spoke about a few minutes ago. This will convert their long-term financing, their SMIL financing, to long-term. So this would be about a $16 million SMLP grant that they've already received. And then we're looking for authorization on the long-term interest-free SMLP loan of $81.6 million. And then the other portions of this project are also being financed with the leveraged financing. Right, and then finally, we have the Village of Vernon in Oneida County. This is a $5,215,500 long-term hardship financing. The Village Wastewater Treatment Plant serves a dairy that's located in the village, and the dairy had requested an increase in their flow as they were expanding. And so these upgrades were required to accept this flow and also for other changes in the Speedy's permit limits. Improvements included new fine screen in the headworks, new final clarifier, UV disinfection, and a new SCADA system. Additionally, the existing final clarifiers were converted to aeration basins. The grit removal system was replaced, and the sludge transfer system was replaced. Construction started in May of 2021 and is expected to be complete by the end of December. Are there any questions on these projects?
Just to elaborate on the Nassau County one, this has been our plan of finance all along, and that we do expect, in addition to these, there'll be at least one more short-term financing and two more long-terms. So it's just, we're going to cash flow as we move it. It's just such a large project that we broke it up into chunks.
Bill, I've got a question just on the Kingston one. The wording that there is ammonia, the word ammonia nitrogen Speedy's permit limits. I'm wondering are they separate or are they together?
It's an ammonia limit in the Speedy's permit.
I see, just ammonia.
Yes,
Got it.
it's a way of, it's how you measure the nitrogen.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Bill, thank you. Any other questions from any of the members? Christine, Vita?
Just a quick question on Vernon. I think it's favorable to, do the wastewater improvements in response to economic growth. Is there any further obligation for flow to come to the wastewater treatment facility from the dairy production? And when are they going to be increasing their flow? Because if we're improving and doing all this in response to their growth, do they have any obligation on their growth to provide their effluent?
The dairy does provide some pre-treatment of their effluent before they discharge to the village. And as of a week ago, they were still negotiating with the village for increasing their flow. So there's no more, I don't believe there's any additional obligation on the part of the village. They're just negotiating with the dairy as to who's going to cover the costs. The village could very well get funding from the dairy. It might be in their best interest to pay the village an additional amount to do more treatment of the wastewater.
Is there any negative impact to the expansion of the wastewater treatment facility if indeed we don't get the increased effluent or the dairy industry moves or something along that line? Is there, it's not going to be, it's so oversized that it doesn't function or anything like that, right?
No, it's not a substantial part of the flow of this treatment plant. I've known communities where they could have a dairy or a paper mill, and the flow from that industry is 50% or more of the flow. In this case, they're going from 250 to 300,000 gallons a day.
Okay,
And so it's not going to make or break them.
because you can see, in response to the economic growth, but then counting on that growth for the design,
Yes.
Okay. Peter, thank you. Bill, thank you very much. Is there any other discussion on ID number 6? All right, there being none, all in favor? Approval? Aye. Any opposed? ID number 6 passes. Madam Secretary, if you could lead us into ID number 7.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizing the president of the corporation or the president's designee to enter into contracts with engineering firms to serve as advisor and or provide engineering services to the publicly owned Treatment Works Assessment Management Program.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there a motion to approve ID number 7? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rita seconds. All right, with that, we'll be led in a discussion by Brian and Kerry Smith.
Thank you. So $10 million was allocated for the next phase of the asset management program, and EFC and DEC jointly issued 2 requests for qualifications. The first RFQ was for the advisor services to oversee the engineering firms for the asset management programs, and 2 firms responded. And the corporation wishes to retain the services of Arcadis of New York for a 4-year term, plus 1 additional term if necessary. The cost not to exceed this contract would be $2.5 million. The second RFQ issued was to hire up to 10 engineering firms to develop the asset management programs for the municipalities. 10 firms responded to this RFQ, and they were all deemed qualified, so the corporation wishes to retain the services of those 10 firms, which are listed in your Exhibit A. And the cost will be $7.5 million in the aggregate, distributed among those 10 firms. We also selected facilities to participate in this program. Kerry, would you like to speak to that? Kerry Smith from DEC is here.
Yes, thanks, Brian. As Brian said, my name is Kerry Smith, and I'm a professional engineer at DEC. So I've been representing DEC's interest in asset management, and I've been the counterpart to EFC for the state's asset management program. We were fortunate to receive a high degree of interest from many municipalities across the state. We had indicated that we could select up to 50 pending our budget. We ultimately are moving forward with 30 municipalities that are distributed across the state. We have, and I don't know, Brian, did we provide the list of municipalities that we've tentatively identified?
No, we did not, but we can definitely provide that after this meeting.
Okay. Just things to note about them. They, are distributed across the state. We have municipalities participating down in our Region 1, which includes Suffolk and Nassau counties. We have participants in all the way out in Region 9, which is over in our Buffalo area. So we have, a really great distribution across the state. If you have specific questions about the municipalities, I'm happy to field those. But I guess that's just a high level overview of those participants.
Great.
I just want to say I was remiss in not introducing Kerry at the beginning. I introduced Brian and Chris, but I think you guys have all met her before because she did a fantastic job explaining the asset management pilot in the past. And so we're excited to start going with the next round of asset management.
Kerry, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the work you do with EFC. With that, if there are any questions or further discussion from any of the members of the board? All right, hearing none, I would make a would ask for a approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being none, item number 7 passes. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, 1D, in order to discuss matters of litigation. And then just to let people know, after we go into executive session, we will be coming back out and resuming the public portion of our meeting. So is there a motion to move into executive session for the purposes so stated?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
With that, for the moment, we'll end the public portion of our meeting and enter into executive session.
Mike, will you please confirm
We are now.
Excellent.
Great. Welcome back. This is the continuation of our August meeting, 31st meeting of the Board of the Environmental Facilities Corporation. We have just come out of executive session. I would like to note that the board discussed matters related to litigation and no actions were taken. With that, Madam Secretary, if you could, would you lead us into ID number 8?
Certainly. A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizing settlement of a civil matter.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. All right, Vita, you second. All right, and with that, we'll be having a presentation by Henrik Weston, counsel.
Thank you. This resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation authorizes the settlement of a civil matter. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from any of the members of the board? There being none, I would make a motion that we approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? There being none, this motion passes. Is there any new business for the board today? Okay. There being no new business, the last item is our adjournment, and I will make a motion for us to adjourn. Is there a second?
I will second.
Great. Any discussion? I would just like to say thank you, everyone, for your participation today and all your hard work, staff. And with that, I wish everyone a happy end of summer. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nope.
We are finished with our meeting today. Thank you.